It is 4 p.m. We're bringing developing news.
And the stories behind the headlines. This is StoryCon. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Ed Lingao. The Philippine Navy denies former Congressman Mike Defensor's claim that the Marines is protecting former Sergeant Orly Guteza. The Navy says that the flood control surprise witness is considered retired since June 30, 2020. This means he is no longer under the authority of the armed forces. The Navy adds that Guteza is not under the protection of the Philippine Marine Corps and that the force no longer has any involvement in his personal affairs. In a statement, Senate President Pro Tempore Ping Lacson also debunked or dismissed Defensor's claim, saying, and we quote, "How much more fakery can we take?" The possibly returning Senate Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman says that as per verification by Marine Commandant Major General Vincent Blanco, Guteza is not and has not been under their custody.
The Independent Commission for Infrastructure convened a technical working group today, and that is to fast-track the recovery of ill-gotten wealth linked to the flood control scam. ICI Chair, retired Justice Andres Reyes Jr. said agencies exchanged information and will then issue announcements in the coming weeks on how these stolen assets can be reclaimed. Meantime, Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon said civil forfeiture is being considered as the fastest way to recover money from officials involved in the scandal. Under this process, officials' SAL-ins will be compared with their actual assets, and any discrepancies could then be used by the Solicitor General to file a civil forfeiture case in court.
No, so once na halimbawa na freeze na yung assets ng mga opisyal, pag tinignan yung kanilang salin, halimbawa, na ngayon open na naman. Doon pa nga makikita mo na kung nagtutugma. At kung di nagtutugma, ang presumption doon agad is illegal yon. So, yun na ang magiging basehan ng kaso. At ang pagkakaintindi ko, mabilis lang yan.
Economic Secretary Frederick Go says the Philippines did not miss out on the tariff break from the United States, but actually opted out of it. Go, who is, of course, the Special Assistant for Investment and Economic Affairs to the President, explains that the Marcos administration has to protect key domestic industries from being swallowed by foreign competition. Recall that the U.S. exempted 3 Southeast Asian nations from tariffs over select products. That's Thailand, Malaysia, and Cambodia in exchange for trade concessions. For Thailand's 0% tariffs, the trade-off is that it will have to purchase $20 billion worth of U.S. agricultural products, energy supplies, and aircraft. Bangkok has also scrapped tariffs for 99% of American incoming items. On the other hand, Malaysia is now exempted from U.S. duties on aerospace equipment, pharmaceuticals, and key commodities like palm oil and cocoa in exchange for concessions as well. There's no information yet on the trade deal between the U.S. and Cambodia.
No, but no, you have to read it. No, Cambodia gave access to the U.S. to 100% of all goods. Alam niyo naman dito, ang tanong niyo lagi sa amin, sir, binigyan niyo na ba yung rice? Binigyan niyo na ba yung corn? Binigyan niyo na ba yung sugar? Binigyan niyo na ba yung, diba? So anyway, I think we're negotiating a lot more stuff. Diba? We're trying to promote coconuts, pineapples, garments, and electronics to the U.S. And then on our side, we're also trying to protect the rice, the corn, sugar, poultry, pork. No, so it's a more complicated thing for our case. Kung gusto nyo simple, hindi kaya si Cambodia gusto natin. Na 100% entry. But we're gonna have a lot of problems. Diba?
And here are the other stories you're watching this Thursday, October 30. Navotas Congressman Toby Chanco urges the DFA to cancel the passport of resigned Congressman Zaldi Co. Chanco says Co has shown no intention of returning to the country after leaving and moving his aircraft abroad. He warns that public outrage over the flood control scandal could be exploited to stir unrest. calling it a potential national security threat.
President Bongbong Marcos and First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos have departed for the APEC Leaders Summit in South Korea. Marcos will address the APEC CEO Summit and will meet with the Filipino community before his official engagements begin there. Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin, Education Secretary Sani Angara, and Agrarian Reform Secretary Conrado Estrella are designated caretakers while the president is away.
And the Office of the President affirms that the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, or the BTA, will remain the legitimate governing body of the Bangsamoro region. That's following the Supreme Court's decision to postpone the BARM elections to no later than March 31, 2026. Malacanang says the BTA will continue to exercise its powers during this extended transition period under RA 12123. And joining us today, Storcon's resident international man of mystery, Raul Llamas.
Happy Halloween!
Where's your mojo, ha? Eh.
Yung mga kanyo, DPWH costume nyo.
Oh, mine is ready. Thanks to Ed. Mine is ready. May cap na.
Ito kasi binigyan na niya.
Ako, yung bangko.
May pinagbigyan na kagad eh.
Ako yung mascara ko, icon. Ombudsman mask.
You know what else is a mystery? And it comes up every time the president is away.
Caretaker.
Sino
Secretary of Agrarian Reform.
Correct. Why is, hindi naman sa I'm questioning his abilities. I'm just saying usually it's not the
Hindi mo-
traditional
Hindi mo kaya question.
caretaker. Si DAR Secretary Conrado Estrella Jr. Hindi ko naman question his
Hindi,
credibility. I'm just saying that's not
Naniniwala ako
usual.
ron.
That's not a usual
Tanong natin kay Ami kung
Caretaker.
kini-question din niya.
usually it's the VP and
yung designated survivors
okay,
sa
sorry,
Netflix,
fine.
di ba?
Okay, fine.
Yung
Maybe,
pinaka-lonely,
in this case, not the VP, pero it would
Pinaka-unlikely.
usually
no?
be
pinaka-unlikely na hindi mo kine-question yung ability.
ES. Sino ba usually ES? Who else?
Usually, yes.
Kaya nga. Only one, right? Anyways. And also, of course,
Nakailang trip na abroad eh.
Kaya kung atakihin sa puso yung
paulit.
ES.
It comes up every time he goes away kasi, di ba? Okay, from the Philippine Star, of course, we've got Editor-in-Chief Ami Pamintuan. Hi, Ami.
Pero pula.
Oh!
Hi everyone!
Buti lang.
Hi,
daw
Ami.
Happy
nag-load
Thursday!
later.
Long
Happy
time no see.
Thursday. Oo nga eh.
Galing daw dyan to si Ronald. Ha?
Uy,
Oo nga.
buti pa si Ami, may birthday gift sa akin.
Oo nga. Tsaka hindi ka pareho no regalo mo kay Red siya.
Eh, hindi mo pa rin binibigay regalo mo sa kanya eh.
Oo nga,
Ganun
by
din
the
yun.
way, I haven't
Ay, hindi mo pa binibigay
Hindi
kay
pa.
Red yung regalo.
Parating na,
It's a,
Puro press release.
hinahanap ko pa eh.
it's a ghost
Na-misplace
birthday
ko.
gift.
Uy, yung
Baka
lechon
nandala sa
darating na
ilalim ng
mamaya.
lamesa.
Sorry ah.
It's a ghost birthday gift.
Sorry, darating na yung
Oo nga.
Uso na ng ghost lahat
Yung
ngayon.
ghost lechon, hindi na siya ghost.
May
Darating
ghost
na.
lechon.
Birthday
Ah, may.
Teka.
Parang,
Mamaya, 6:30, darating dito.
Teka, para malinaw. Ito ba yung lechon baboy o lechon manok?
Lechon baboy. Lechon baboy.
Oo nga, let's baboy.
does it matter?
Pakisabi
Oh,
kay,
no.
pakisabi kay Lord De Vera.
Tatlong po tayo eh.
Pakisabi kay Lord De Vera, yung kanyang Halloween party. Nagdala ako ng lechon dahil may umaalas ka sa akin dito na principal.
Well, ang dami ng promises that have not been kept. All I'm saying is, alam
Oo
ko
nga,
uso
pati
ang big
regalo ng
promise
birthday,
ngayon.
hindi na
Actually,
ibigay.
2 weeks na. Until now.
May
Ano ba
parating.
yan?
6:30.
Pinakita lang sa amin, hindi pala binigay
Sabi
sa'yo.
mo, 7.
Nakita lang sa audience natin.
Kaya
And then that's it.
lechon baboy o lechon manok?
Apparently,
Lechon baboy.
apparently, takot siya because I can use it on him. Yung birthday gift.
Pinakita ko rito, di ba, Ami?
Sabi
Karamihan.
Pinakita ko rito, kaya meron. Na-misplace ko lang eh.
Ha.
Nasaan eh.
Okay, so we're following up on the news from yesterday. Ami, wala ka dito, but we had a
Headline yata yung ating
Yeah.
news kahapon.
very how do I describe it?
Controversial.
Testy interview with former Congressman Mike Defensor, who of course was the one who facilitated the surprise witness, the appearance of the surprise witness, si Sergeant Is he a sergeant?
Orly,
Sergeant Orly.
yeah,
Former
retired sergeant.
Yeah, retired
Orly.
Sergeant Orly Guteza.
Na nag-ghosting.
Nawala ngayon. And
Ghost
si
niya yan.
Congressman Defensor was insisting that he was in the protection of the Philippine Marines. Clarify mo
Specifically,
din.
sabi pa niya, in the Marine Corps compound. And I suppose by that he means the one in Fort Bonifacio. Tapos meron pa siyang mga details na provide. Like for example, sabi niya, well, that's according to him, sabi niya, at one point daw, pati pamilya niya kasama. So we don't know if that was supposed to have changed. That's one detail. The other detail that he also gave was that meron daw hinuli mga Marines na
Tinitail.
Oo,
tailing him.
nagpang-casing.
Yun yung tawag doon, casing.
Guteza. Ang sabi pa nga niya, hindi lang malinaw if they meant to kill, but you know how it is,
But
to kill him or
he
to
implied that there was a threat on his life.
threat.
Yeah.
So meron
Yeah.
sa mga ganung
Sabi ni
details na
Senator
bigay.
Ping Lacson, how much more fakery can we take?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sabi
Yun na nga, and then you clarified then, Ed, do you mean he's in the protection of retired Marines or he's under the protection of the organization, the Philippine Navy?
Yeah,
Sabi
well,
ni-
actually two things whether he's in the custody and protection of the Marines, and by that do you also mean that he's under the custody and protection of the armed forces or
Correct.
yung Marines
By
lamang?
extension, oo.
Kasi mamaya mamaya bumukod din naman yung mga Marines, you never know
Hindi,
So-
pero ang sabi ng Marines at saka ng Navy, Guteza is not and has never been under their custody.
Yeah. Well,
Never been.
to that point, let's bring in our guests this afternoon who can confirm this and put this to bed once and for all. We're talking to Captain Marisa Martinez, spokesperson of the Philippine Navy. Good afternoon, Captain. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Captain.
Magandang hapon po.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, sirs and ma'am.
So, alam ko, Captain, you've given a few interviews today. Paulit-ulit kang tinatanong. And the first question is the same, essentially, because this show is where former Congressman Mike Defensor claimed that nasa custody niyo daw po si retired Sergeant Orly Guteza, and that he's within the Marines compound is what he told us.
Marami
Please
pa lang
respond
nanonood
to
sa
that.
atin. Marami pa lang nanonood sa atin. Hindi ko alam.
Teka, pasugutin mo muna si Kapitan.
Captain?
Ma'am! Sorry, magulo yung kasama
Ma'am.
namin.
First and ma'am, we would just like to emphasize that Mr. Orly Guteza is not under the custody of the Philippine Marines nor the Philippine Navy because he's not anymore under the active service. He already retired last June 2020. And we are not also extending any protection to him. So I would just like to emphasize to everyone that he is not under the custody of the Philippine Marine Corps nor the Philippine Navy. And I would just like to highlight that we have our respective rules and regulations in our bases pertaining to unauthorized personnel.
So, he has never been in the custody of the Philippine Marines, and wala din nag-reach out in any way or form to the Philippine Marines to
protect him.
to support him.
I would just like to inform everyone that due diligence was done by the Philippine Navy to check if he is indeed in one of our camps or one of our bases, but wala po, sir and ma'am. So we would like to say that those that are that we see in social media or the claims of others are just unverified. They are unverified information and they are speculative statements.
Captain, may sistema ba kayo to keep track of the former Marines kapag umalis na sa serbisyo? Meron bang sistema to keep track of their whereabouts?
Usually, ma'am, the whereabouts or the statements or testimonies or the actions of anyone who has retired already is not anymore under the radars of the Philippine Navy, especially if he's not a reservist. I would like to highlight that Mr. Guteza is not a reservist because when he retired in June 2020, the law was not applicable to him. The law was that I am pertaining to is the automatic the law that would make you a reservist automatically once you have retired. So it did
Yeah.
not apply to him. And if we would check the records of the Philippine Marine Corps, he is not under the list of the reservists. So with that, he's not, number one, under active service, active military service, and he is now performing in his personal and private function as an individual. So his statements, his testimonies does not reflect the official position of the Philippine Navy nor the Armed Forces of the Philippines po.
So hindi rin po siya, hindi din siya pensioner. Kasi kung pensioner, may record siya, hindi pa siya qualified sa pension. Saka apart from the pension, pwedeng i-track kung merong registered firearm yan eh. Member yan ng military eh. Yun yung mga ways of keeping track of upon retirement or upon separation from any service. Yun ang mga ways to keep track of kahit man lang yung address, di ba? Or contact.
Ma'am, I would just like to mention that we acknowledge the services and sacrifices done by Mr. Orly Guteza, who was a former Marine. However, when he retired, automatically, all those who retired from the armed service receives their pension. We take care of them, and we do monitor them on where they are through the pay and allowances. But definitely, whatever his actions are, his statements are, his testimonies does not reflect the official statement of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. If in case he was anyone who has retired would violate any law, the PNP or the legal authorities are in charge of him or them.
Ma'am, you mentioned a while ago that, of course, the Marine Corps and all the other services, they have their rules and regulations as far as who is authorized to stay in the camps, especially the headquarters camps. Can you tell us more about that? What are allowed? What kind of personnel are allowed within, for example, the Marine Corps camp? I asked that kasi po, of course, it is an official camp. There are barracks there, but there are also houses there, especially of high-ranking Marine officers. I've been there several times. There are official residences there of generals and so on down the line. So could you tell us kung ano yung rules as far as sinong pinapayagan pumasok at lumabas sa mga kampo?
Sir, thank you for that question. Sir, we have our respective, the Armed Forces of the Philippines has a base, has their regulations in terms of its bases. And the authorized personnel in our bases, whether it's a barracks, whether they are quarters being used by those who have families, we usually list those who are in our homes. There's also a list of those who are authorized to enter the camp. Actually, yung mga foreigners, sir, they are not authorized to enter. They need to apply for security clearance. As well as those doing businesses, they still need to get clearances. So those who are only authorized are, of course, the officers, the men and women of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, those who are their families, their immediate families, their kasambahay or house help, and these names are listed in the base, in the respective stations, naval stations or bases po. And anyone who would be caught violating these regulations, they will be placed under the military law. And there are consequences to it. Of course, we would be conducting the necessary investigation. It will undergo several processes and protocols. Then once the individual would be deemed to have violated such regulation, may consequences po, sir and ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. We understand po. But at the same time, I also have to ask this question. Is it at all possible na makapasok yung unauthorized personnel inside the bases? Kasi po, pag may
Without
decal
your
naman,
knowledge, yeah.
pag may decal yung sasakyan at pag official yung nakasakay, hindi naman po pinapalista lahat ng nasa sasakyan. I know that din because I've been there several times already. Usually kasi out of respect for the senior officers and for those who have BOQ or may quarter sa loob, maaari naman pong lumabas-pasok ng mga sasakyan without having to check kung sino yung nasa loob, especially if it's a car that is recognized already.
Okay. All our camps, sirs and ma'am, the Armed Forces of the Philippines, are usually situationally aware of what is happening. We have our commander of our bases. We have units there patrolling also, guarding the gates also there. And we would just like to assure everyone that due diligence was done by your Navy, by the Philippine Marine Corps, to check, to validate if indeed totoo yung mga balita na that is coming out in social media that Mr. Orly Guteza is in custody of the Philippine Marine Corps. And just recently and also yesterday, we counter-checked it and wala po. Wala po, sir and ma'am. Mr. Guteza is not under the protection or custody of the Philippine Marine Corps and the Philippine Navy po.
Sabi nyo nga, Captain, wala kayong contact doon sa mga wala na sa serbisyo. No? Pero meron ba kayong rules and regulations governing yung conduct kahit wala na sa serbisyo? Halimbawa, meron ba kayong rules doon sa mga wala na sa serbisyo pero naging marine na hindi ka pwedeng magtrabaho sa ganitong klase na trabaho? Meron ba kayong ganon? O hindi mo pwedeng gawin ito or else ay tatamaan ang iyong pensyon? No? Katulad nung lumabas several weeks ago, na yung mga sasama dito sa mga destabilization na mga former armed forces officers na merong pensyon ay pwedeng matanggalan ng pensyon. Meron bang ganung rules sa inyo, sa mga Marines? Yung ganung klaseng regulation?
The Marines or the Philippine Navy or any member of the armed forces just have, we only have one set of regulations. And that is the Article of War. And we also we are all under the military law. Now, those who have already retired and who are now private citizens, if they're involved in sedition or there are certain crimes that are not tolerated in the armed forces. So with this, we leave it to the hands of the legal authorities, to the law, to PNP, and to the courts to do the proper investigation po. Now, once if they are found guilty, there are certain processes. So my apologies. I am not in the authority to expound on the consequences related to this type of crimes.
Yeah.
Opo.
Okay. Captain, I need you to confirm one other thing that former Congressman Mike Defensor said. One is yung presence nga ni Sergeant Guteza dun sa compound, which you've already belied. But the second one is, sabi niya, and I will quote him because I don't want to be misconstrued, sabi niya, meron ngang nahuli yung mga Marines na may umaaligid kay Sergeant Guteza. Hindi ko alam yung details of what transpired or what happened, pero nahuli ng Marines yung taong yon and nasa record nila. Nasa record niyo daw. Hindi ko alam kung papatayin siya or intel lang yon, kinikasing siya. But there was this incident siguro several days ago. He told us that yesterday on this very show. Could you confirm, please?
May record ba kayo ng ganon, Captain?
Okay, I would just like to, before answering that, again, going back to your question about those who have retired, I would just like to highlight that the retirees are expected to be law-abiding citizens. Now, going to your question po, sir and ma'am, these are unverified information, and these are speculative statements, like he says, she says. So, your Philippine Navy is always hinged on facts. And we are always in due diligence. We do what should be in order to counter-check any information. So those information that were mentioned by certain individuals, that needs to be checked, verified. Mahirap po, sir and ma'am, mag-comment doon sa mga speculations po. Because they didn't mention any name. They just mentioned that this happened, that happened, but there were no names that were mentioned. And I think one individual also mentioned ex-marine. So again, I would like to emphasize that your Philippine Navy is doing its job. It's doing its due diligence in counter-checking to making sure that the camps are safe and the Mr. Guteza is not in custody or not protected by any.
Okay, balikan ko lang yung tanong ko ha. Kasi I'm asking about yung mga addresses niya na pwede siyang ma-reach through his pension, through his guns. Kasi missing in action siya ngayon eh. Tinanong na ba ang Philippine Navy or ang Marines by any authority kung nasan siya? I mean, has any agency asked for your help to locate him? Hinahanap siya ng Senado, hinahanap siya ng ICI, hinahanap siya ng NBI. Meron na ba nagtanong sa inyo? Nasaan ba tong taon to?
Usually, ma'am, when when an active service member retires, they write down their address
Yeah.
as well as their phone number, just in case there's a problem related to their receiving pensions,
Pension.
and so forth. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
However, what is only written in the information they submit to the agency in the AFP that is in charge of the pension is the thing that limits us. So in terms of the information, if we received any information about people asking his whereabouts, again, I would just like to emphasize, sir and ma'am, that he is currently a private individual. And he's not anymore in the active service. So we are restricted only to the information that he has written in the one he has provided when he retired from the service po.
So, Captain, ulitin ko lang yung tanong ni Reg kanina. There is no record na meron na huli yung Marines na nagke-casing daw kay Master Sergeant Guteza. So, that's official. Walang ganong klaseng record na meron kayong hinuli na nagke-casing.
I'd just like to clarify, ask a question about walang nagka-casing. Are you referring to a private individual na nagka-casing or is that the armed forces?
Hindi, ang sabi ni former Congressman Mike Defensor, meron daw na huli ang Marines na nagke-casing daw dun sa kay Sergeant Guteza sa kampo.
Nasa record nyo daw
At
yun.
nasa record nyo daw na may nahuli. So, ang sinasabi nyo, walang ganon.
In terms of that, I would just check again with the Philippine Marine Corps because right now, again, we conducted an investigation. But in terms of your question na may nagki-casing at may nahuli, I would just like to emphasize that activities being conducted within camp, the officers, enlisted personnel, and the people in charge of that camp would know, would prevent such to happen and would definitely report it to higher headquarters. But as of now, there has been no report that reached higher headquarters about that. So we are your Navy, your Philippine Marine Corps is doing its job and dun sa premises po ng ating bases, ang ating station po, if there would be any activities related to that na may nagki-casing, those are already illegal activities. The only people who are authorized to do casings like that are our intelligence officers. And if there would be people who will be coming in doing that, unauthorized talaga po yun, sir.
Yeah. No, I take it to mean you haven't confirmed that yet, definitively. We just need a yes or no answer here, Captain. Totoo bang may nahuli that was casing Sergeant Guteza and it was in your record? So, but judging from your answer, it sounds like you haven't had a chance to check the record. So we'll let you do that, and then we'll come back to you to confirm once and for all. I guess we'll leave that there. We're going to have to go on a quick break. Thank you so much for talking to us
Salamat,
today.
Captain. Salamat.
Philippine Navy spokesperson,
Thank you, Captain.
Marisa Martinez.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, marami pang nanonood sa atin.
You are watching StoryCon on One News. We just need to take a very quick break. Kayo, kasi si Stadler and Waldorf. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.
We've got developing news and the stories behind headlines. Welcome back to Storycon, the Story Conference. I'm Ed Lingao.
I'm Regina Lay, still with us. I'm Pamituan of the Philippine Star and Ronald Llamas, our resident political pundit.
Kung pinag-uusapan, narinig tayo. Microphone kayo eh.
Sorry na po. Hindi ko kasi karir ito, kaya hindi ko alam yung mga ganyan mga technical na bagay.
Okay, sorry. Pinag-uusapan nila Halloween party. Also joining us this afternoon is Bicol Salo Party List and Public Accounts Committee Chairman, Congressman Terry Ridon. Sir, magandang hapon and thank you for joining us today.
Ay, magandang hapon. Maraming salamat sa pag-imbita.
Magandang
Hi,
hapon,
Congressman.
Kong Terry. Long time no see. Ano bang costume nyo ngayon?
DPWH.
Walang Halloween. Walang Halloween ngayon.
Walang Halloween?
Halloween? Bawal ang party ngayon sa house?
So, talaga,
Walang party. Hindi pwede mag-party ngayon.
Sir, let me zoom into one specific question already. There was a joint statement by Labor and Business calling for giving greater powers
ICI.
to the ICI. Kasi nga naman, it's an executive body, so basically wala siyang magagawa kung hindi gustong magpakita yung mga ini-invite. Wala kang contempt powers eh. But at the same time, I understand there are also some proposals in the lower chamber to empower the ICI with these kinds of powers. How are we as far as that is concerned, and what's the temper in the lower chamber for that?
I think both House of Congress, meron po yung mga legislation na to basically grant contempt and subpoena powers to the ICI. So, pagbalik ko ng Kongreso sa Nobyembre, I think isasalang na po yan sa pagdinig. And hopefully, yung Senado talagang magpatuloy po yung nauna na po nilang pagdinig dito para mapabilisan po talaga yung pagbibigay ng dagdag lakas sa ICI po.
Pero so there are two different versions. There's of course one for the ICI specifically. Tapos there's another commission being proposed, itong People's
Senate.
Commission. So people are sometimes conflating the two eh. But these apparently are two very different things eh. For example, the ICI itself. I'm sure you've been in touch with your colleagues. So what do they think of the proposal to empower the ICI to have contempt powers? Mukha bang papasayan?
Hindi ko papasa yun. Kailangan po masaya yun. Yung contempt saka sa subpoena powers. Kasi yan naman po yung basic problem po ng ICI at this point. So, ang kanyang subpoena ay para lang sa executive officers, employees. Hindi talaga yan nagbabind sa mga non-executive resource persons like Congress and private person. So, yan po yung basic wishes niya today. Nakita na natin yan sa Madiskaya when they opted out sa cooperation with the ICI. So, I think most certainly Senate and Congress will really make sure na meron contempt and subpoena powers po yung po ICI in that future legislation.
Kung ano yung isang proposed bill dyan ni very famous Congressman Kiko na bill naman para sa Kwan?
Oh naman, you have to bring it up.
Yung sa
Magkaaway.
citizens investigation, participation. Ano bang bill yun?
Hindi ko alam eh. Marami siya kasing sinasabi in the last couple of days, so I'm lost at the speed of his legislative power. So I don't know. I haven't seen it actually.
But
Parang civilian, kwan naman yun, Civilian Investigation Commission.
But you seem to have engaged in a online word war with him, Kong. I often see you responding to, things that he said. And siya din, likewise, right? How are you guys in real life?
I haven't been speaking to him, but yung daddy niya, kaibigan ko talaga, si Congressman P.D. Barzaga. Magaling talaga yun. Magaling na abogado yun. Magaling na legislator yun. I cannot say the same for him. Particularly with yung pong panawagan niya to abolish the PCG. Kasi I think fundamental statement on the unity of the WPS question po yan, yung binabanggit niya eh. Hindi ba? So parang I think that really had to be taken down, na talagang decisively. Kasi yung mga PCG po natin, yan yung mga nasasaktan sa WTS fight eh. Tapos i-abolish mo lang, parang medyo malabo naman yun.
Hindi naman nagagalit yung tatay niya sa'yo for hitting his son.
Patay na.
Okay,
Hindi,
sorry.
ano na yun eh, nasa langit na yun eh. Kaya,
Okay, sorry,
ano na
sorry, I
yun,
didn't know.
Talagang pinagdadasal ko yun lagi.
Baka mabulto.
Congressman, tapos na yung yung deliberations diyan sa House on the budget. Ano po yung nakikita nyo? Kasi meron kayong mga inintroduce na reforms for transparency. Pero sinabi sa amin ni Congressman Shell Jokno, di naman daw nakaparticipate actually yung civil society. Sabi niya, it's a work in progress, we know. Pero kayo, on your part, ano yung nakikita nyo pwede pang gawin by way of reforms para ma-improve yung transparency and accountability at mabawasan yung risk na maulit itong hinaharap natin ngayon na napakalaking corruption scandal?
Siyempre, yung bola po ngayon nasa Senado na ngayon. Pero yung UA po,
Yes.
yung unprogrammed appropriations budget po yung I think magiging flashpoint dyan. Kung entirely ba siyang tatanggalin o ititira na lang po yung foreign assistance projects fund sa unprogrammed appropriation. So, I think we will wait for what the Senate will do, and I guess in the BICAM, that will be an actual discussion with the Senate.
Very clear
Pero
kasi yung
payag ba
posisyon
kayong greater participation ng civil society? Hindi naman daw nakapagsalita, hindi daw nakapagbigay ng input during the open hearing. Anong tingin nyo na pwedeng baguhin doon?
Well, siguro, pinuhin lang siguro yung civil society aspect ng budget deliberation participation. Kasi, siyempre, dapat naman talaga pwedeng magbigay ng mga proposals. Yung pong mga civil society, ano yung mga line items na gusto nila ipasok, ano yung mga proposals gusto nila tanggalin, ano yung mga policy on the budget na gusto nila ipasok. So, dapat, I guess in the next budget deliberation, magawa po natin ulit. Pero to be very clear, wala yan dati. Ngayon lang ho yan nagkaroon ng innovation. So,
Yes.
pagka maipino ho natin yan muli sa susunod pong taon, baka naman ho, mahikayat natin muli yung civil society na mag-participate.
May tanong ka?
Kung very specific kasi si Senator Ping Lacson. Sabi niya ay haharangin namin yung unprogrammed allocation na proposal o kasama dun sa sinabit ng House
243 billion thereabouts.
sa BICAM, no? So, meron ba kayong reaction doon? Willing ba kayong mag-compromise? Meron na ba kayong napag-usapan sa House na middle ground? Or talagang drawn yung line?
Well, una sa lahat, kailangan ko maglinaw. Hindi naman ako bahagi ng Appropriations Committee. Nasa Oversight Committee ako. Pero yung personal ko kasing pagtingin dyan, yung pong UA dapat confined lang siya doon sa mga responding to disasters, responding to emergencies, no? Yan yung talagang red line for me nung pong paggamit ng UA. So anything na new construction, anything na hindi rehabilitation ng infrastructure, dapat hindi po yan kasama dyan.
But I think he wants to move yung ayuda out of the unprogrammed appropriations, ibabalikin sa program appropriations. Ang maiwan lang, if I understood correctly, was FAPs, the Foreign Assisted Projects, which in the first place was under program, nilipat lang to unprogrammed in recent years. What do you make of this?
Well, yun po nga paglilipat ng ayuda, from unprogrammed to program, actually, pwede yung gawin ng Senado yan. So I think they will have to decide. I think the reason bakit nasa UA po yung additional ayuda, hindi yan yung in place already na ayuda na nakalagay sa DSWD at sa iba pang mga ahensya. So ito yung parang in the event of additional need, meron kang standby under UA. No? So I guess ang idea po ng Kongreso dyan, parang ayaw nilang isang bagsakan na nakalagay sa program kasi kung hindi naman nila magagamit yan, during the course of the year, edi parang sayang yung pera. No? So, ibig sabihin, kaya nakatabi lang siya under UA.
On a different note, kamusta lang Quadcom?
Wala pa masyadong updates on the Quadcom. Pero syempre, I guess fundamental concern pa rin yan, yung missing sa Bongeros. No? So hopefully, pagka nagkita-kita ulit kami ng mga Quadcom chairs, mapag-usapan namin kung kailan yung susunod pong hearing. Pero as far as I'm concerned, yung pong sa Public Accounts Committee, yung Dolomite investigation, I think pagbalik namin, baka pwede na ho namin kasama.
Okay.
What about the Dolomite specifically?
Hindi, kasi supposedly ano is sa maunang mga committee hearings na gagawin po namin under the new Congress, naitabi lang yun dahil nagkaroon ng infra-com, no? So, dahil nagsuspend na po kami sa House Infrastructure Committee, pwede na po kami bumalik doon sa mga main committee hearings ng public accounts, which includes ito po ang Dolomite investigation ng Manila Bay Project.
May nabanggit din tungkol dun sa reclamation sa Laguna de Bay. Sinabi ng DENR na ang classification daw noon is flood control, pero yun daw satellite imaging nila they are actually reclamation projects. May balak din ba kayo na tingnan nun?
Iba pang bagay po yun. So, syempre,
Yes.
yung pong mga reclamation kasi isa sa mga tinuturo yan na parang dahilan ng baha, no? Sa Metro
Yes.
Manila at sa iba pang mga lugar. So, I think rightly so. Dapat pong magkaroon po ng mga pagdinig. Inaantay ko lang kung meron pong mga House resolutions po investigating reclamation. I think meron po on Manila Bay. Yung on Laguna de Bay, I'm not quite certain. I have to check po again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Coming back to the flood control investigation, Congressman, you issued a statement recently, no, describing a quote-unquote coordinated political operation that was meant to poison political discourse. Who or what exactly are you describing here? What do you know?
Well, ang itsura ho talaga nitong Guteza affidavit, no? Parang nakita ho natin sa Manila Regional Trial Court na falsified yung mga signature, no? Again, to be very clear, ibang bagay yung falsification po ng notarization doon po sa Senate testimony, no? Yung valid yung Senate testimony will have to be subjected to further scrutiny. Pero the problem with Mr. Guteza really is sana nung pinaghandaan na po yung affidavit, ginawa na ho nilang tama para hindi ho mabutasan yung ultimate credibility po ng tao. Kumbaga, on the affidavit and on his Senate testimony.
I mean, that was what we were talking about yesterday with the former Congressman Mike Defensor. His point was that dapat the investigation should proceed anyway based on Guteza's testimony. Never immaterial daw sa kanya yung issue of the notary public. Even though yun nga, as you pointed out, the notary public herself has come forward and said that that's not her. And the court has found that it was falsified. Both the seal and the signature were falsified. But I'm curious about the coordinated political operation that you're talking about here. What do you know that we don't?
Beyond the Guteza issue.
Well, siyempre, parang nakakagulat yung pagsulpot ni Mr. Guteza, hindi ba? I think it was basically narrated by Senator Marcoleta na si Mr. Guteza was, I think, approached former Congressman Mike Defensor, and then Congressman Mike Defensor approached Senator Marcoleta. No? So, ibig sabihin, parang, kumbaga, bakit hindi nagpunta si Mr. Guteza directly to the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee? Diba? Bakit meron pang ang daming mga pinuntahang mga daanan? Kung katotohanan naman yung gusto natin talagang abutin dito.
But you haven't heard anything else other than, I mean, I know you're questioning Guteza's credibility, pero outside of that, wala ka naman nakita in terms of specifically the coordinated political operation that you're talking about to poison the public discourse.
Well, we will have to see. Well, firstly, syempre, yung pong falsified affidavit will ultimately be part of that, no, of that coordinated political operation. Pero again, the challenge is really on Mr. Guteza to reappear again before the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee. And syempre, I think Senator Lacson would want to coordinate with Senator Marcoleta and Congressman Defensor, no, to basically locate Mr. Guteza. Di ba? So, para doon sila magpaliwanag sa komite. Di ba? Talaga bang anong nangyari dyan? Ano yung kwento ng affidavit na yan? Meron ba silang kinalaman dyan?
So, I take it to mean you don't find him all that credible? Kasi in your statement, you also said that falsehoods were deliberately engineered to mislead public officials. Sorry, public official inquiries and poison public discourse. So I take it to mean that you don't fully subscribe to what Guteza is saying.
Well, this is basically a response to Congressman Mike on what he is saying na immaterial yung affidavit. Alam po ninyo, material yung affidavit and the testimony. Kasi ang totoo, kung hindi falsified yung affidavit plus maayos yung Senate testimony ni Mr. Guteza, wala naman tayong pinag-uusapang bagay na ganito ngayon. Hindi ba? So, ibig sabihin, talagang decisively material. Ito pong pagka-falsify nitong notarization po na ito doon sa credibility ni Mr. Guteza moving forward. So, I think that is what we need to clarify at this point.
Pero sir, let me take a step back lang and try to look at it from a third eye or third perspective. What would he have to gain by falsifying notary public and public signature and seal for a testimony that he would also be repeating under oath in the Senate? And number two, hindi mo nga ba gawain talaga ng mga notary public yan na hindi talaga sila yung kaupo? At kung sino lang nandun siya yung pipirma. And so therefore, yung anumang pirma ng pumirma doon will not match the actual signature of the attorney.
Hindi, okay yan. Okay yan. Okay yung binabanggit mo kung hindi tayo nag-Manila Regional Trial Court proceedings. Hindi ba? Yan yung pinag-usapan previous to the RTC. Pero nag-uusapan na ngayon kung pirma ba nung notary public yan o hindi.
Yes, sir.
Diba? So, ibig sabihin, again, to answer your question, hindi naman kailangan meron siyang he has anything to gain dyan sa bagay na yan. Diba? Ang importante, you have to go to court, you have to go to the committee with clean hands. No? So, kumbaga, dapat when you made your affidavit, in-ensure mo talaga na humarap ka before an actual notary public, yung abogado yung kausap mo, pinirmahan niya yun in front of you. Hindi ba? Kasi hindi naman simpleng bagay ito. Hindi naman ako nagpapanotaryo lang ng lisensya na affidavit of loss. Hindi ba? This is one of the most important affidavits in this flood control hearing. Hindi ba? Bakit parang pupunta ka lang doon para papapirma kung kani-kanino? Hindi ba?
Kung on a
Congressman, may
different note,
naamoy ba kayong
Congressman,
grupo? Kung
kamusta
kanino?
na ang House ngayon? Paano
Alin
balita namin, pag natapos na yung budget, magkakaroon ng changes sa leadership, sa chairmanships, no, deputy speakers. May ganun bang malapit nang mangyari? Ano bang balita dyan?
Hindi ko alam. Wala akong masyadong balita.
Malapit na
I think
mangyari.
nagpapahinga muna yung mga congressman sa mga distrito nila. Nag-iikot. Tingin ko doon sila focused at this point. No?
So, walang
Congressman, yung coordinated political ninyo, may nakikita ba kayong grupo? Any particular group that you want to name na suspetsya nyo behind it?
Tignan pa natin. I think malalaman natin yan pagka sinalang po yung mga napangalanan ng mga tao sa Senate Blue Ribbon Committee.
Okay.
That's,
Ano naman yung
parang, yeah. No, I mean, so you think there are names in relation to that? Yung nag-coordinate ng political operation?
Oo nga. Any names?
Because,
Tingnan natin in the Blue Ribbon Committee. Diba? Kasi pinangalanan naman sila eh. Diba? In that, during the course of that Blue Ribbon Committee hearing. So, sila din naman natin yung mga na-interview ngayon. So, very important na they have to say their piece in the committee under oath.
okay. Okay, we'll leave that there. Thank you so much for talking to us today, Public Accounts Committee Chairman, Congressman Terry Ridon.
Thank you, sir.
Salamat, Kong.
Thank you,
Salamat.
Congressman.
Just also to set the record straight about the interview yesterday, we did give former Congressman Mike Defensor a chance to come back today to respond to the allegations, the denial of the Philippine Navy, saying that no, Orly Guteza is not with them, and they don't know where that information is coming from. So we invited him again today, but
He won't pick up.
well, we've been trying the whole day, pero mukhang hindi pa nagko-confirm. Hindi pa na yata nagre-respond according to our...
May bukas pa naman.
That's true,
May
that's
Biyernes
true.
pa,
There's
eh,
always...
Halloween bukas.
Yeah. Yeah, and but again, it's a very serious allegation he made, right? And now we have a refutal, and now the ball is back in his court, right? To respond to the Navy's official position on this. Na kasi ang dami niyang he made a lot of allegations.
Pati yung casing. Pati yung sinabi niya na hawak na ng
Na may record
Baka,
daw.
baka mas may alam actually yung katabi niya.
Baka may record. Ano? What do you know? What do you know? Baka may record daw. Because you know, there were some
Mas may alam siya.
there was some criticism as well about why we were giving him on so much airtime, and also why we were suddenly questioning the surprise witness, si Guteza nga. We're not questioning him, but my only point about this is everyone has to stand up to scrutiny, right?
Yung nga sabi ni Congressman
Oo.
Terry Redon, hindi naman to simpleng affidavit.
Oh, which is
Represent mo to sa Senado.
correct.
To ribbon.
Yeah.
At ang babanatan mo ay before was the third highest or fourth highest.
Regardless, if you're gonna make allegations against somebody on air, somebody who's not around to defend themselves, you better back that up, right? That was my only point yesterday. He made a lot of allegations, and yun nga, he was insisting that Orly Guteza is credible, but we don't know him from Juan de la Cruz, right? Everyone in this case has to stand up to scrutiny. So, Congressman Mike Defensor, if you're watching, please come back to the show.
Sinasabi kasi nila, kwan lang yan eh. Notary public lang yan eh. No? Ganun yung sinasabi
Oh, yun
nila.
nga eh.
Ginagawa naman natin lahat yan eh. No? Yung ganun
Si Ed, mukhang gawain ni Ed. Alam na.
Bakit hindi nyo alam yung ganon?
I don't know what you're talking about. Okay.
Gano'n kadalas ka nagpanood sa Republic na yung abogado talaga nandun.
Okay, thanks for joining
Di ba,
Story
Ami?
Con today.
Nag-cover din ako ng nag-cover din ako. Tama
Pero
si Ed.
kung kakasuhan ko si Ed Pamintuan, sisiguraduhin ko
Si Ed
nandun yung kwan. Ay, Ed
Pamintuan.
Lingaw.
But on the other hand,
Ed Lingaw pala.
kung ang sasabihin mo sa affidavit mo, pareho nasasabihin mo sa sworn testimony mo sa Senado, ba't mo pa ipepeke yung affidavit mo?
Kaya na nga.
Yun nga. Eh, kaso,
Like I said, everything-
sabi ng RTC, peke eh.
Has to stand up to scrutiny.
Sabi ng NBI,
Okay,
peke eh.
Thank you for
So,
joining StoryCon today. I'm Nipa Mituan, Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Star, Ronald Llamas, our resident political pundit. Join us again tomorrow, 4 p.m. for StoryCon. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Ed Linggao, kapatid. We are One News, all sides, all the time.
This is the Story Conference Group or the StoryCon Group.